I love great conversations. Hi, my name is Angel Jones. Thank you for joining me on 12-minute convos where I help you create a brand of your own unique, real self. Listen in as I have conversations with amazing people from all over the world. Good day, Adelaide Goodeve. How are you going on this wonderful, beautiful day?
I'm doing very well, thank you. It's a pleasure to talk to you today.
Yeah, it's a great pleasure to connect with you as well, Adelaide. What part of the world are you in right now?
I'm in Guildford, which is a town just south of London in the UK.
All right. And which of your talents is responsible for us connecting at this time?
You connected with me on LinkedIn, so I must have done something right there. So I'm assuming it's something to do with neurolinguistic programming and hypnosis.
Ooh, can I add something?
Yes.
Podcasting.
And podcasting, of course. Yeah, I have my own podcast too.
Yeah, tell us about your podcast, please.
So, as I briefly just mentioned, I'm trained in neurolinguistic programming, hypnosis, and life coaching. And I love podcasts, and I also love adventuring and challenging myself in a physical and mental way. So on my podcast, I tend to interview athletes, adventurers, and entrepreneurs, and we dive into their mindset, so how they think and how they influence their thoughts and what their mindset is like and how it allows them to perform at their very best. And I dissect that to then provide my listeners with tips, tricks, and methods that they can apply to their life and their mind to take it to the next level and see what they can do.
So who did you learn this adventurous skill from, this adventurous you? Where did that come from?
So I've always been quite adventurous. It probably stemmed from my grandmother because she told me lots of stories about her life, and they grew up abroad. Well, she grew up her family abroad, as my granddad worked for Cable and Wireless, which was now BT. And so they grew up their family in Jamaica, Sri Lanka, Hong Kong, and South Africa. And so I grew up on these amazing stories of travel and adventure. So I'm guessing she planted the seed.
No, you didn't say the name of the podcast. Please do tell us that.
That's The Wild Show.
I love it.
Thank you.
Now that you've done what you've done via the podcast, sharing the stories of others as well as yours, of course, why will you continue to repeat that skill, Adelaide?
I continue to repeat it because I feel it scratches my own itch. And I feel it, for me, there are so many podcasts out there which look at the stories of people and they tap into maybe their training or their eating habits. But I really wanted to get into the nitty-gritty of the mindset. And also, in America, they have so many incredible podcasts like The Rich Roll Show, Sean Stevens, The Model Health Show, you got The Tim Ferriss Show, which are like my go-to ones. But I felt there was a podcast missing that was produced and hosted by a woman, and also that interviewed European experts. Because I was listening to the podcast and I was like, wow, I'd love to go to a talk by them, or I'd love to buy their book. And it was always someone from America. And so the people I interview are from the UK, mostly, a couple of Americans, because I'm not really biased in that way. I'm not at all. And it enables my listeners that they could go to a local event, or they can buy their book, or they could go on their course if they have one and learn from them. Whereas for a UK person or a European listening to an American podcast, sometimes you hear of these really cool companies they have that you'd like to buy from or find out more about, or maybe take a course, and you couldn't. So that's why I also created the podcast.
Mm-hmm. I listened to the podcast and it was absolutely amazing. The conversations you're having there. Wow. How could you not listen?
Oh, thank you so much. That's amazing.
You're welcome. Tell us, where's the best place for us to connect with you, or even the podcast?
So the best place for the podcast is if you're on iTunes, if you're on Apple, it's iTunes. If you're on Android, it's Spreaker or Stitcher. Or you can visit the website, which is adelaidegoodeve.com/The Wild Show. And then there you've got all the show notes and all the pretty pictures I create as well. And then the best place is on Instagram, which is Adelaide Goodeve. And I post behind the scenes on how I create the podcast, all about my training. So I'm now training for a half Ironman, the adventures I'm going on, and some cool pictures that I create around the podcast, and the different tips and tricks I also pick out from there too.
Love it. Adelaide is spelled Adelaide. Adelaide. Well, Adelaide, please do tell us what is one thing you've done consistently over the last 3 years?
I was thinking about this. It was a really good question. I'd say that the one thing I have done consistently is I've influenced my thoughts and emotional states. I'm behaving and thinking in a way that gets me the results I want.
Wow, how does that make you feel?
Yeah, I also think about this. It's good follow up. It makes me feel powerful because it enables me to rewire my brain and influence my mind and consequently influence my physiology, which is an amazing thing to feel, and it can transform your life. And it also makes me feel happy because it means I can be in the most useful state at the time. And whether it's getting out of the pain cave or on an Ironman or feeling calm when things are becoming overwhelming. And by enabling to change state, it makes me feel happy because it's something I can do. It gives me, instead of being passive towards the outside environment, I can be active. And that's why it also makes me feel powerful.
Would you suggest that to someone else to do that?
Yes,
you would. It sounds so extreme, right? It sounds so abnormal from what we're seeing in society.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's a bit. I mean, some people get it. Some people are like, oh, it's a bit voodoo-ish. But I can tell you from my experience. So for 4 years, I suffered from chronic fatigue syndrome. It was quite severe. And using these powerful techniques. So I suffered for 4 years from severe chronic fatigue syndrome. And by using these powerful techniques of the hypnosis, the neurolinguistic programming, and the coaching, I was able to quickly and fully recover. And so based on that experience for myself, I know this is such an important skill to learn. And it's also a very easy skill. Like some of the you don't have to go down the entire course. You can learn from someone such as myself or from some things online about the different techniques you can use. And some of them is simply just changing your language, so limiting words from your vocabulary or adding a one in. So it's a very easy change to make, and it doesn't have to be a big change to get the big results. Sometimes the smallest change can get you the biggest results.
I love it. Amazing audience. You're hearing it live here from Adelaide Goodeve. Again, she is the podcast host of The Wild Show. Amazing things going on, dear Adelaide. Let's switch gears for a moment now and let me invite you into my time machine that is surrounded with beautiful, warm, blue Caribbean water. Adelaide, what is your earliest childhood memory?
That's a good question. What is my earliest childhood memory? Probably sitting in front of my grandma's electric fire after having a bath. And then she also used to give me a little bit of sherry that was watered down. And that's probably my earliest memory because I've been around maybe 3.
What did she give you? My apologies, I didn't hear you clearly.
It's called sherry. It's like a sweet alcohol liqueur, but it'd be very watered down.
Ooh.
And she gave me a tiny bit of that, and it was a treat.
All right. How old were you? Average?
I must have been between 2 or 4.
Why do you think this memory is so clear?
I don't know, to be honest. I mean, it was a great time. I loved staying at my grandparents', and they were really wonderful and also adventurous people. And even now, though my grandma now has Alzheimer's, she's still she's hilarious. She's very funny.
How do you see that memory connecting to who you are today?
Well, my grandma was a very strong and independent woman. So when my granddad moved, so they got married and moved straight away across to, I think they started off in South Africa. And she brought up, that's where she had her first child. And that was also where quite like a jump into society, because suddenly she was a wife, and had to look after her husband, look after the house, and host these amazing parties, and then go to these incredible parties and represent her family and my grandfather at a very young age, I think in her late teens, early 20s. And the way she brought up her family was unlike any of the other women on the compound, because she would take them out into the local culture, and she would get them used to go to the food markets or go to the local fabric shop and get to know the people in the culture there, or take them out to the beach. And so for me, I'm also independent, and I like, when I go to these different places, I like to meet the local people. I don't just like to stay in a tourist area. For me, that's a bit tame. And so I guess in that respect, she did influence me, and that's why this memory stands out so clear, because she's the one who kind of planted the seed on how I wanted to live my life.
Can I offer an interpretation to the thought picture you created in my mind?
Yes, please do.
Well, I do have the opportunity to see the artwork that you have for your podcast, and it is absolutely fascinating to me.
Oh, really?
That it looks like you on the, like if I was at the fireplace looking at you taking the picture, it looks like the exact image that would have been you, which is your hands are on your face, right? And you're in this like super happy, I've just had my shower, it's cold, but yet it's fun.
Yep.
It's an image of the wild you, if you would.
Oh, thank you. That's a cool interpretation. I like it.
You're welcome. And then there's the power up with the cherry, right? which is the thing that makes you warm from deep inside, allowing you to unleash your best self.
I like it. That's really awesome. I'll go with that one.
If we fast forwarded to when you were 12 years old, what was your favorite song?
My favorite song when I was 12? God, I have absolutely no idea. I have to say I'm not overly into music, so my favorite song changes on a regular basis.
All right, it's cool.
I did go see a Westlife concert, I think around that age, but it was because it was my friend's birthday and I wasn't particularly enamored by them.
All right, it's cool. You're not the first. I'm sure you won't be the last. Adelaide, we've arrived at our destination, but before we get off of this time machine, there is a small declaration form. So it's yes or no, possibly a bit more. We're going to move pretty quickly here. Are you ready, Adelaide?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Adelaide, have you chosen someone to pass on your skills to?
No.
Are you married?
No.
Do you have children?
No.
Do you believe in God?
No.
Do you have an inner circle of friends?
Yeah.
Do you watch TV for more than 3 hours a day?
No.
How about 3 hours a week?
Yeah, probably 3 hours a week.
What about screen time, the phone and the computer? Is it more than 8 or less than 8 hours a day?
It depends on the day.
If you, Adelaide, had to share with us your own unique real statement, a statement that represents Adelaide Goodeve, what would you say that is?
I say I wish I'd prepared this earlier. My own unique statement that represents me.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is really hard. Okay, I think it would be, so I live to serve my higher self and provide value to the world. Without doing so, I think it would be a disservice.
Love it. Adelaide, this has been a great pleasure. Before you leave, is there anything else you'd like to share with our amazing audience?
I would like to share that if you're scared about doing something, then maybe look at it from a different perspective and just take one tiny small step towards that and keep taking those small steps, because eventually it will lead you to your destination.
Adelaide Goodeve, again, a great pleasure. Thank you, my friend, for being on what is inspired by 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones.
It was amazing to be on. Thank you so much.
Thank you for being on 12-Minute Convos with Angel Jones. Stay tuned for more from our advertisers.
Diabetes is a mountain pandemic. It's a disease that's not acute but chronic. Similar to this rhyming method, I have simplified the definition, the signs and symptoms, and the complications of diabetes for both adults and children in my books, Poems for Patients, A Focus on Diabetes, and The ABCs of Diabetes for Children. These books are available on Amazon.com, and for more information, you can visit my website, poemsbyaj.com. That's poemsbyaj.com.